Welcome back to the AI Breakdown Brief, all the AI headline news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with a discussion that is getting an absolute ton of attention in Washington, which is, of course, the implications of AI on the upcoming presidential election. There are grave concerns. Hold aside any sort of future existential or extinction risk from AI. There are plenty of people in positions of power in the policy world who are mostly scared of what happens in this election, given the proliferation of technology that allows people to make deepfake audio, video, and photos. On Thursday, the Federal Election Commission held a procedural vote on a petition requesting that it regulate ads that use AI, specifically to deepfake or misrepresent the positions of political opponents. Now, on the one hand, this seems really obvious. It doesn't seem like one candidate should be able to create a fake video of their opponent making a fake statement. And yet apparently this is something that needs to actually be legislated, given that it's already happening in certain parts of the election. Now, there already is a law on the books that prevents against fraudulent misrepresentation in campaign communications. But part of this particular request comes from wanting to clarify if and how that law applies to new AI deepfakes. Where this gets particularly complicated is areas where nominally the group that created the ad isn't trying to deceive the viewer into believing that something was actually said, but is more presenting it as a theoretical of what could be. An example the AP gives is the Republican National Committee releasing an ad in April that was meant to show the future of the US after a second Biden administration. The ad had AI-generated photos of boarded-up storefronts, military patrols in the streets, and more, and again, nominally wasn't meant to deceive people, but still operated in a very blurry area. Now, what happens next is a 60-day public comment period in which citizens can register their opinions, after which specific decisions about new rules will be made. Speaking of rules and the Biden administration, there is a lot of discussion to round out this week on new restrictions on business dealings with China. Axios sums up, in his new executive order banning investment in certain Chinese sectors, President Biden is trying to restrict more than US dollars from flowing into China's technology industry. He also wants to prevent the transfer of American know-how from top private equity and venture capital firms to China's semiconductor, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing sectors. Those are the three areas targeted in the new executive order. Confirming that this is less about money and more about knowledge, a senior administration official told Axios, China doesn't need our money. They are a net capital exporter. The thing they don't have is the know-how. Another official said, capital is the hook, but the focus is what comes along with those kind of capital investments. Now, respected venture capital journalist Dan Primack said that this is a pretty significant moment in the history of venture capital. Indeed, he called this the end of unfettered globalization in venture capital and private equity. Now, one technology domain that has seen plenty of venture capital invested that may be starting to turn a corner into acceptance is, of course, self-driving vehicles. This week, two companies, Cruise and Waymo, have gotten approval from the state of California to expand driverless taxi service in San Francisco. The approval came from the California Public Utilities Commission, which has oversight of passenger transportation in the state. This was a hugely contentious proposal, with advocates in San Francisco saying that they were basically being cut out by the state-level regulators. As the Wall Street Journal points out, though, even if this is now approved in San Francisco, there's still big hurdles for a broader U.S. rollout. The WSJ writes, a 2022 poll by consumer intelligence firm J.D. Power showed that most consumers are comfortable with driver assist features, but only 12% indicated they are comfortable with full self-driving features. Next up on today's brief, a story that seems to confirm what so many authors, creatives, artists fear around AI. Author Jane Friedman has apparently discovered AI-generated books that were written under her name and put up for sale on Amazon. Now, by way of background, Jane Friedman is an author who focuses on education and publishing, and on Sunday she got an email about her latest books that had been published on Amazon. The problem was she hasn't written a book since 2018, so understandably, Friedman was a little confused. On Monday she tweeted, as of today, there are about half a dozen books being sold on Amazon with my name on them that I did not write or publish. Some huckster generated them using AI. This promises to be a serious problem for the book publishing world. Now, in some ways, in this case, it feels like a platform problem. Friedman said that initially Amazon wasn't really helpful. She said on Twitter, after going back a few times with Amazon on this issue, I was notified the books would not be removed based on the information I provided. Since I do not own copyright in these AI works, and since my name is not trademarked, I'm not sure what can be done. Now, when Amazon did ultimately remove them, Friedman attributed it to how viral her story had been on social media. As she wrote on her blog, the fraudulent titles appear to be entirely removed from Amazon and Goodreads. I'm sure that's in no small part due to my visibility and reputation in the writing and publishing community. But what will authors with smaller profiles do when this happens? Now, even beyond people just trying to coast off of authors' names, there's also just the problem of how much AI-generated content is being dumped onto these platforms. In many cases, people are gaming the systems and crowding out real authors in the process. Lastly today on the AI Breakdown Brief, a new model from Anthropic. Anthropic has been on quite a tear. Over the last few months, they've revealed more details about their constitutional model, they added a 100K context window, and finally in July, they announced their Claude 2.0 model, which was an update of the Claude 1.0 that they had been using. On Wednesday, the company introduced Claude Instant 1.2, which is an improved version of that Claude 2 model. Anthropic showed that across a variety of tests, Claude Instant 1.2 had significant improvement over Claude Instant 1.1. For example, on grade school math problems, the success rate went from 80.9% to 86.7%. On Python coding, from 52.8% to 58.7%. And yet still, even with all these advancements, even with new open source releases, the undeniable elephant in the room is still GPT-4. As Y Combinator founder Paul Graham tweeted yesterday, I was talking to an AI expert a couple days ago who told me that if progress in AI stopped now, it would still be another 2 years before we knew exactly what GPT-4 was capable of. Still exciting to see other players in the space continue to innovate, especially with some pretty different approaches in key areas like alignment. That's going to do it for today's AI Breakdown Brief. If you're enjoying this, wherever you're consuming it, be it YouTube or as a podcast, if you haven't yet, I would so appreciate if you would subscribe. And if you have subscribed, I would so appreciate it if you would share it with just one other person. The people you guys bring into the community are the best members, and I am thrilled to invite your friends and family to this cohort of learning. Thanks as always, and I'll be back soon with the main AI Breakdown.